From across the globe have begun to arrive in New Delhi for the G20 Leaders Summit under India's presidency. The Russia-Ukraine war, climate change and digital public infrastructure are among the many issues that will be taking center stage during the meetings. I caught up with European Union's ambassador to India, Astuto, earlier today and began by asking him about the agenda, priorities of the European Union at G20. Here is that conversation.
Well, we are here to support the priorities identified by the Indian presidency, as there are a number of very topical interests which are of crucial importance for the whole international community. I would focus, for instance, on climate change, on the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals. We have heard the UN Secretary General saying that we risk not achieving the Sustainable Development Goals in the targets that we have set ourselves. So there is a need for a renewed focus from the international community. And then the digital transition. Clearly, India has developed very interesting experiences about the provision of public services through digital tools. So that's something we are happy to discuss about. Women's empowerment, also a particular important thing for all societies worldwide. And the focus on Africa, we certainly appreciate that. Europe is a neighbor to Africa. We definitely believe that bringing the African voice via the African Union into a forum such as the G20 will offer a specific added value. So all these are areas of topical interest, and I think the Indian presidency deserves to be commended for putting the spotlight on this.
How do you read the absence of President Putin and President Xi Jinping from the summit? This was a very important G20 summit that is taking place. It is India's presidency. There's a lot of global volatility. How does the absence of these two leaders make things for others here on the table?
Look, it's for them to respond, so I will not enter into that, but I will certainly emphasize that as European Union, and I think I can also speak for the EU member states, we are here to support the Indian presidency. It's a moment particularly where we are facing a very erratic international scenario. It's a moment for the international community to come together and to use the G20 as a tool to identify global challenges, global concerns, and to see how best we can address this.
Right. When it comes to some of the economic issues before the G20, be it debt restructuring, be it digital public infrastructure, cryptocurrencies, reform of multilateral development banks, which are the areas where the EU is supporting India and where you expect consensus?
Well, again, as to the deliberation of the G20, I will have to wait and see, since it's now imminent. But what I can say is that several of the topics you mentioned are also the subject of a pretty intense conversation bilaterally between the European Union and India. I think we all agree that we are now facing a major world emergency. I'm talking here about climate change. And in order to address climate change, we also see that public finance is no longer sufficient. And we also see that the multilateral financial institutions were designed at a time where this challenge was not felt as imminent. So we need the multilateral financial institution to revisit their objective and purposes, and we need also to find innovative ways and means to mobilize private capital for this, to be steered towards green finance, particularly towards the countries, the most vulnerable countries, that very often are also the ones that are most affected by climate change.
So will EU try and raise the ambition on climate finance at the G20 summit? Do you think that will be the message?
Well, it's an effort that we are trying to put in place. It's a cross-cutting endeavor in our discussion with our partners and in multilateral fora as appropriate.
Right. On the FTA, when the presidents meet with the Prime Minister, do you expect some significant progress on the FTA talks? Where are they right now?
Well, we have had 5 rounds of negotiation. The last round was here in India, and the 6th round is foreseen in Europe by October. And we've also had the visit of Executive Vice President Dombrovskis, who is responsible for trade. He was here in August. He was here for the G20 in Jaipur, and then he came to Delhi for bilateral meetings, and he met for what we call the high-level dialogue, Minister Goyal. And I can tell you, I was present, I can tell you the atmosphere was extremely cordial and friendly, and there is a shared determination on both sides to bring the discussion forward towards a productive conclusion. It's a complex negotiation. There is no point in denying it. We are aiming at an ambitious and comprehensive FTA, so there are a number of topics and issues that need to be taken into consideration. But we have a clear political steer from our principles, and I've seen both teams fully committed to the work ahead.
With that, it's a wrap on this special edition of our G20 programming. More news and updates continue right here on CNBC.